My parents threw me out of the house as soon as they found out I was pregnant. Mom said, "Don't have anything to do with us anymore." I raised my daughter alone. 4 years later, they suddenly showed up at my house to see her. When I opened the door, my daughter peeked out from behind me. Mom's face turned white. "Why does she look exactly like him?" I smiled. It was their turn to learn the truth. I was still holding the pregnancy test when Dad placed my suitcase outside the front door. Mom opened the door and said, "Don't have anything to do with us after today." My name is Emily. I was 26 years old and working as a receptionist at a dental office in Columbus, Ohio. The father of my baby was Andrew Hale. We had known each other since college. He was the son of Thomas Hale, my father's former business partner. Dad hated the Hale family. According to him, Thomas had forced him out of their company 10 years earlier and destroyed his career. Even mentioning Andrew's name was practically forbidden in our house. I waited 2 days after taking the pregnancy test. Then I told Mom and Dad over Sunday breakfast. My coffee had already gone cold. Mom picked up the test with a tissue, as if it was something filthy. "Who is the father?" Dad asked. "Andrew." His fork stopped halfway to his plate. Mom stared at me. "Don't lie." "I'm not lying. We've been together for a year and a half." Dad pushed his chair back and stood. "That boy has been using you to get back at us. He doesn't even know I'm pregnant yet. He's working on a project in Seattle." Mom grabbed my phone from the table. "You're never speaking to him again." I pulled it out of her hand. "You don't get to decide that." That sentence was enough. Dad went upstairs, pulled my suitcase from the closet, and began throwing my clothes into it. Mom followed him and said I couldn't remain in their home while carrying the child of their family's enemy. "I'm your daughter," I said. "You were," she replied. "I had half a tank of gas, $800 in my checking account, and nowhere to sleep. I drove to a Walmart parking lot, sat behind the wheel, and called Andrew. He answered on the first ring. What happened? I'm pregnant. He was silent for a few seconds. Where are you? Outside Walmart. Stay there. I'm getting on a flight. He didn't ask whether I planned to keep the baby. He didn't say he needed time to think. 8 hours later, he arrived in a rental car carrying a chicken sandwich because I hadn't eaten all day. We rented a small apartment together. Andrew gave up the Seattle contract and accepted an engineering job in Columbus. 3 months later, we got married at the county courthouse. My dress came from Target. Our daughter, Sophie, was born on a cold November morning. She had Andrew's gray eyes and the same small dimple in her left cheek. I sent Mom a picture. The message showed as delivered. She didn't respond. The following morning, I discovered that she had blocked my number. I didn't try again. The next 4 years were not easy. Daycare was expensive, Sophie got sick often, and our old car seemed to need a new repair every month. I worked at the dental office during the day and completed a medical billing course at night. Andrew started a small engineering firm with his father. It took time, but the business gradually became successful. We moved from the cramped apartment into a modest suburban house with a fenced backyard for Sophie. One afternoon, Thomas asked me to come to his office. He closed the door and placed a box of old company documents in front of me. I think you deserve to know why your father really left the company, he said. The documents showed that Dad had transferred money belonging to several clients into a personal bank account. Thomas had discovered it during an internal review. Instead of calling the police, Thomas had allowed Dad to resign quietly. My father then told our entire family that Thomas had betrayed him and destroyed his career. Dad had invented the feud to hide the fact that he had been caught stealing. I made copies of every document and stored them in a file at home. I didn't call Dad for an explanation. Our relationship had already ended at the front door of my childhood home. 4 years after they threw me out, the doorbell rang on a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting on the living room floor, helping Sophie put together a puzzle. When I opened the door, Mom and Dad were standing on my porch. Mom held a pink gift bag decorated with cartoon butterflies. We want to talk, Dad said. After 4 years. Mom lowered her eyes. We made a mistake. We want to see our granddaughter. Before I could answer, Sophie peeked out from behind me. She was holding a blue puzzle piece in one hand. Mom's face turned white. Why does she look exactly like him? I smiled. Because Andrew is her father, just as I told you from the beginning. Dad's expression changed immediately. Does he live here? This is his home too. Andrew walked out of the kitchen. He lifted Sophie into his arms but didn't greet my parents. Mom tightened her grip on the gift bag. We didn't know the truth. You refused to hear it. We were trying to protect you. By throwing me out while I was pregnant. Dad interrupted. We all made mistakes. No. You made a decision. I lived with it. I picked up the old file from the side table. There's another truth you didn't expect me to learn. I placed the financial records in Dad's hands. His arms immediately dropped to his sides when he saw the first page. Thomas gave you these. Yes. You weren't forced out of the company. You were caught stealing from clients. Mom turned toward Dad. Robert. He didn't answer. His silence told her everything. Then I understood why they had suddenly appeared on my porch. Andrew's engineering firm had recently been featured in the local newspaper after winning a large government contract. The article included a photograph of Andrew and Thomas outside their new office. My parents hadn't come because they regretted abandoning me. They had come because they knew we had money. Dad cleared his throat. We're experiencing some financial problems. Family members are supposed to help one another. I opened the door wider, but not to invite them inside. You told me we were no longer family. I accepted that. Mom kept staring at Sophie. At least let her get to know us. No. Emily, please. She's our granddaughter. She's the same child you called your enemy's baby. You don't get to reject her before she's born and claim her 4 years later because her father is successful. Mom held out the pink gift bag. We brought her something. I took it from her, placed it back in her hands, and closed the door. Sophie looked up at me. Who were those people? Andrew set her down beside the unfinished puzzle. I picked up the blue piece she had dropped and placed it in front of her. Some people who came to the wrong house, I said. Over the next several weeks, my parents left multiple voicemails. Mom cried in some of them. Dad sounded angry in others. He said I was being cruel and accused Andrew's family of turning me against my own parents. Then an attorney sent us a letter threatening to pursue grandparents' visitation rights. Their claim had no legal foundation under the circumstances in Ohio. They had never established a relationship with Sophie, had deliberately cut off contact before her birth, and could not show that denying visitation would harm her. The matter ended before a formal case was ever filed. I saved their messages in a folder beside the records documenting Dad's theft. They had come to my house expecting to meet the granddaughter they had rejected. Instead, they saw Andrew's face in hers. They saw proof that I had told the truth from the beginning. They also discovered that I knew the truth about Dad. 4 years earlier, they had put my suitcase outside and told me I no longer belonged to their family. This time, there was no suitcase waiting outside the door. There was only them. If Emily's story moved you or kept you watching until the end, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about family, betrayal, resilience, and hard-earned truth. Your support means so much and helps us continue sharing meaningful stories. Thank you sincerely for watching and supporting our channel.